Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This is called Healthy for Life: Foundational Skills for Parents, Teachers, Mentors, and the Kids They Love. Before I introduce these authors to you today, I have a huge shout out to our lead author of this Healthy for Life project, Dr. Ilana Zablosky Amir. Thank you so much for your huge vision and mission of bringing these stellar expert authors together to talk about a pretty darn huge subject. This was a massive undertaking, and I'm so grateful to you for being here and leading this group. So you're about to meet three of them. Dr. Amanda Carpenter, visionary CEO of Aya Fit, leads a groundbreaking wellness platform that integrates sacred wisdom with modern technology and science, the missing link for biohackers. We have Dr. Eyal Levitt with us. He's an associate professor of clinical dermatology at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center with a fellowship in Mohs, laser, and cosmetic surgery. And Caitlin Twain is here. She's a health coach and movement plus breathwork educator who guides people towards greater physical and emotional potential by unveiling the intricate connections between the body, mind, and environment. And Caitlin, I am actually going to start with you today. Would you take a minute to introduce your chapter and give us a little bit of the why behind it?
Absolutely. Let me start by thanking you for orchestrating this, and to Dr. Ilana Amir, who, is just an incredible person doing amazing work. So my chapter is chapter 21. It's titled An Aligned Life Begins Within: The Impact of Posture on Body and Mind. What I do is help people move their bones, quite literally, into alignment by releasing fascial restrictions, muscle tightness, so that we can get them out of chronic pain. From there, the breath work begins to flow beautifully in the way that we were designed. So an amazing unfolding happens when we do that, right? So very often someone will come to me just with a structural problem. When we fix that, 1,000 emotional pieces fall into place as well. It's truly one of the most liberating, transformative processes to witness. And I want people to understand that even if you approach something from a purely structural point of view, the ripple effects through your own body and those who depend on you and love you is so profound.
You know, sometimes that can surprise people, but if you are experiencing an emotional release with a practitioner who was supposed to just align your bones, like what do you want to say about that piece of it? Why should I really be excited that that's happening?
Actually, I let people do their own release. So I teach them how to use self-myofascial release balls. I also teach them about intuitive movement. I have to teach them how to play nice with their body, right? Especially if there's been a whole series of chronic injuries. Teaching them to give their body a voice, to understand its cues. So the unfolding is actually very much at their own pace. They receive what they're ready for, and it's a very gentle, my clients feel very in control of the process, and again, it happens at their own pace because they're the ones doing the work. It's important for me to empower everyone to know that they can do this work themselves. They do not need a healer, a guru. They have this wisdom within themselves if I can help them access that.
Love my therapy balls. I love my rollers. I love
Yeah.
all my tools. Yeah, I was laying on the floor rolling my body out the other day. And I think just kind of backing up for one more minute about this. Don't be afraid of the emotion, I think was my point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be afraid of it
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, very often there are trapped emotions, uh, stuck patterns. And the only way to actually find alignment is through the release of that. And sometimes that can look a little bit messy, right? And the healing road is something very much like this, right? And very often a release within the body, yeah, can get messy, but I see it as a beautiful, beautiful part of the process.
Yes. Oh, my goodness, for sure. Love that we kicked this interview off like this today. It's my favorite subject ever. We could be here for 5 more hours just on this one topic, you guys. That's how it's going to go today. Caitlin, thank you so much for saying yes to this project and for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, Amanda, take a minute to introduce your chapter and tell us a little bit about your why.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for putting this all together. Thank you, Alana. Really appreciate the opportunity to share. So I'm chapter 23, Nature Moves, Exercise Beyond Calories and Heartbeats. So a little bit behind my why, nearly 25 years. I'm in my 25th year of practice as a doctor of physical therapy, and had this drive that I later determined was really an addiction towards exercise. And we're talking like back when I was a sixth, seventh grader. And that drive actually led me to become a physical therapist. And, for many years, focused on orthopedics and human performance and really pushing and driving the body. And, how can we push the body to get more and more out of it? And then there was a big turning point in my life where I had a bit of a metabolic energetic burnout, which I wrote about in one of the other Brave Healer books, Holistic Mental Health Volume 2. And that was a big turning point because I tried to discipline myself through exercise to get through that. And the truth was, I just further broke down my body. And so for me, it was the first time that I actually wasn't able to use that hardcore physical drive to get the performance out of my body that I wanted. And like Caitlin just shared, I wasn't playing nice with my body. I was commanding and controlling it to tell it to do what I wanted it to do. And it had always done what I wanted it to do before. So I felt in control until it didn't. And so, really, my chapter is about my journey from that sixth grader whose drive was actually to not put on any weight. So that was my initial drive with exercise. And we're going back to the 90s where, the diet at the time was low fat. So you could have as much sugar as you wanted. Nobody demonized sugar. It was all about the fat. So demonizing sugar. So not only was I beating up my body through exercise, but I also wasn't nurturing it. I wasn't giving it the fuel that it needed either. And I was counting, calories in, calories out, but it didn't seem to work. I'm like, man, it shouldn't be this hard to maintain chubby. Like it's a lot of work to maintain. So what I want people to know is the human body is designed to move actually in very primal ways, right? Like, playing tag with kids, housework, we need physical activity in order to move our lymphatic system, which doesn't have a pump. And as Caitlin mentioned, breath, the breath is such a key to that. And if we have postural abnormalities, that breath in and of itself can trigger the nervous system and alter our mechanics. And like you can't exercise that away. Right. So physical activity and getting in tune with what Caitlin mentioned, the intuitive stretching is really such a key to nurturing that body. And then it's amazing what we can get from the physical body when we support it, we nurture it, we love it. The human performance is like, just beyond, we don't need cardiovascular exercise to be able to tolerate hiking up that mountain. We just need to support the body and make sure that the chemistry is where it needs to be, that the fascia is elastic, so we're not fighting ourselves in mud, supporting the body, and it's amazing what we can do.
I really enjoy listening to. I'm such an anatomy geek. I'm like, yes, give it to me. I'm going to rewind you back to that personality that has an identity through peak performance, and it is so difficult to slow down as an adult when you started your life and got into, I resonate so much with your story, very, very similar path. It's like part of me, and to slow down and not do it makes me feel like I'm not me. What would be a small piece of advice for somebody like yourself and me who have to do something different, or else you had the example of burnout.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, my recommendation to the world would be, I think the greatest gift that we could give ourselves is the gift of presence, of tolerating being present in our body. And what I mean by that is so many of us, and this is what I was doing, is that I wasn't comfortable in my body. So I was always ahead of myself. I was always, even my exercise was future based, right? I wasn't present in my body when I was exercising. My mind was elsewhere. I was disassociated. So I didn't feel the pain in my body.
Mm.
So my advice to everybody all levels, from chronic illness to burnout to physical, is learning to be present with the body and learning to listen to the voice of the body, and not from a command and control of our mind knows better, but just learning to listen, and what is my body trying to tell me? We don't always have to, if my body's telling me to go eat a Twinkie, okay, we can have a conversation, negotiate that, right? But there's little things like the body's screaming for rest. And I'm like, nope, just got to keep going. And what I was doing was I was fueling myself in this high performance state with neurotransmitters instead of true metabolic, ATP, I was just draining myself. So tolerating being present in our body allows us to get in tune with what is it that the body needs versus the mind being in control and the driver.
It's a huge golden nugget, you guys. I hope you're pausing there, tolerating being present in your own body. Amanda, thank you so much for saying yes to this project, for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to keep going, you guys. I know these are juicy topics. Dr. Levitt, tell us about your chapter and a little bit about the why behind your chapter about skin.
With pleasure, Laura. First of all, I want to join the rest of you guys by giving a shout out to all of you. You guys are amazing. I am very humbled to be part of this brilliant group. I learned so much from you guys. And obviously, thank you for taking on the lead, Laura, with Ilana, and inviting us all. It's truly an honor. So the topic, the subject is skin, your first line of defense. That's the name of my chapter. And it's the largest organ in our body. It is the really, truly the outside of our body. And therefore, it's what keeps like our home, keeps us alive. Without it, we are unable to defend against the bacteria, against all the environmental pollutants. And it's important for us to therefore keep our outside body in health. And what I'd like to say is, listening to Caitlin and Amanda, it reminds me that in order for you to really, truly appreciate what you have and to get to the aha moment, you have to go through setbacks. And there are, motivational quotes that say setbacks are actually setups for your opportunities. And that's truly how I got to going into skin. I myself had issues with skin, with dryness, with other problems, and trying to battle with that and finding how to heal myself when traditional medicine was unhelpful was how I got to my chapter and deciding on what I would write.
There's so much here about skin, and I think my mind is going right to, we also put so much product on us. And I don't know, I think about this all the time. It's like, I don't think that people are really thinking about what they're doing to that biggest organ of the body. They're not fully aware there. Is there something you want to tell people about that particular thing, like what they're putting on them?
Yeah, we're learning more and more that the advertisements, just like with food, just like with exercise, just like with everything, are just that. They're advertisement, and they are perhaps brought up by people with good intentions, but we have to have our own decision. Just like the information that comes into our brain and the propaganda that's spread out within the, the world in politics and everything else, so too there is a lot of noise, and we have to be the ones that are making, is it about sugar, about carbohydrates, about not, we have to be the ones to find that balance. And it all has to be like Socrates taught us, by questioning everything and by making sure that we come ourselves to the realization and listen to our body, how it feels, how it breathes, how it moves. And I think being part, again, I would say, of this book is amazing because it's holistic. And when you approach your skin and you're deciding at which creams you should use, you should look at it as well in that manner, because it's not only the active ingredient, but it also the vehicle in which it comes. And do you have a larger body surface area to your own body? So if you're applying something on a tiny little baby, the surface of the skin to the amount of volume in the body is much bigger, and so the absorption would be much higher. If you're pregnant, there'll be different values that you have to consider. And then you have to think that you're not in a vacuum. It's not you're only getting, oh, don't worry, just a little bit of that sunscreen ingredient in there that potentially it only damages the corals. Well, if it damages the coral reef, how about it can damage you too? Because you're not only doing that, you're also taking, the drink from your plastic bottle. And you're also wearing the non-wrinkled clothes with a Teflon. So when you look at that stuff, and that's why this book is so, so amazing and I think it's a must read for everyone. I mean, I think not only it should be read, reread, annotated, etc., and should have a podcast as well. So anyway, sorry, I could go on.
We'll tell Alana about all that. We'll get her going. I wholeheartedly agree. And this is so perfect how you've set us up for this next question for all of you. Before we go there, just a huge thank you to the three of you today. I challenged you. I'm like, get a story in there that's going to help people get to know you. And that's, sometimes for people, it's not the easiest thing to do. You were all so brilliant with that. But then you're stepping up in that second part of the chapter with your master teachings, something that the reader will learn or be able to do and have an experience with. And I thank you for that, because you do it all day long with your clients. That's one thing. But to get it into black and white so that a reader has an experience is quite a thing. And thank you so much for doing it so brilliantly. And Dr. Levitt is right. This book is going to be a gift for people. Even just the awareness in this book is world changing, life changing. So I get very excited about this. All right, Dr. Amanda Carpenter, I would like to start with you on this next one. And Eyal kind of set us up for this perfectly, but this whole world of wellness can be completely overwhelming when you start to go look for solutions and you are just dumped on with advertisements and all the things that we could read and please don't Google your diagnosis, you guys, that type of stuff. So I would love to know what your best tip is to our listeners for understanding and vetting information and practitioners. Like, how do we do this for ourselves and for our kids?
Yeah, great question. And Dr. Levitt totally set us up for this because he said, question. We've got a question, right? So the key to where those questions come from is not that we're questioning authority, not that we're questioning, some people are afraid to question a doctor. It comes down to resonance, right? Like, what does your body say? No to? And what does your body say? Oh, tell me more, right? So our body is electrical, which can be measured through heart rate variability. And there's information in the field. And it's that electrical information that our body is saying, yes, this resonates. There's a tuning fork inside me that says, yeah, there's a common resonance here. And so it is so overwhelming. There's so much information out there. And even when I'm talking with the client, they're like, oh my gosh, you're giving me so much information. And I'm like, and it's not all for you. Like take 2 or 3 things that I said that resonated, and that's where you go with them, right? So I think that as Dr. Levitt alluded to, questioning allows us to get in tune with that resonance too. So if a practitioner is suggesting a certain treatment and we're not sure if it resonates or not, ask questions, because it's in that questioning that we can feel if there's a common resonance, or no, thank you, not for me, or not right now as well, right? So, I think of myself 25 years ago as a new physical therapist who really thought she knew everything, right? And I would convince my patients, and I was also trained to use fear to convince my patients to do certain things. And I think back to that other, that old version, and today's version of me knows that she was wrong. Right. So I think back to like, oh my gosh, how many people did I hurt? How many people listened to me? Right. I question. So I want people questioning, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. Right. Or what gets us in trouble is when it's that Mark Twain quote, it's in my chapter, like when we really think we know, but it just ain't so. That's what really gets us in trouble, right? So that's when, a practitioner is really, this is exactly what you should do, and they're really trying hard to convince. There's probably some missing information there, right? So it's really the layers of what do I do when, what comes first, who do I listen to? It really comes down to resonance. And that's why it's so important to be present with our body, because otherwise we're in our head and we're making decisions from our head, and our head doesn't always know the answer, but the intelligent wisdom of the body does. So when we're present, we can really feel that resonance and that alignment.
Thank you for kicking that question off so brilliantly. Always coming back to body awareness. There's that magical language that is speaking to you all day, giving you solutions and lean-ins and answers. And we should be a little better listening to that. It's such a transformation when you can trust that thing. Okay. So I want to go to over to Dr. Levitt with this next one. And I'm actually going to be a little bit specific with this same question for you, because you're a skin guy. I've got this little spot and it's starting to look funky and I don't know what to do. And now I'm going to go dive into the internet to find out. And I look at pictures, and what I find first. I find the worst possible case scenario. The questioning that Amanda started with is absolutely perfect. But unless I have someone I can trust to ask those questions to, it's pretty overwhelming. What tip would you give in this world of wellness overwhelm?
Laura, it's a brilliant question and a life-saving question. I think, to use Amanda's tuning fork example, you need to listen to your tuning fork. No one is God. I'm not God. And you go to New York's Times best doctors, they're not God either. And I'll always have to bring the example. You have to, as a physician, I believe you have to listen to your patient. We have inside a gut feeling, a little voice that talks to us. We were taught as children to ignore that voice, to not listen to it. Well, we need to go back to it. It is set up to us. I don't know by what power. You want to call it God, you want to call it whatever, human survival, survival of the fittest, whatever it is, that you need to listen to that. So yes, you go in, you have panic, you have different information. Then you need to direct it by going to a physician that you decide that you trust. But if the physician tells you, oh, don't worry about it, and you feel bad about it, take a biopsy, doc. If you trust him to take the biopsy, that is. If you're talking about the spot specifically. Or do the test. Why not do that? And if they say no, guess what? Go find another doctor. And I'll give you the example. There was this lovely lady who came to me, and she went to the #1 New York Times best doctor. He looked at her mole. He looked with the special loop, everything. I mean, he's a big center I won't mention, but whatever. And he specialized only in moles, and he laughed at it. So, she still felt a little weird about it. So she went to the next New York Times best doctor, who was in Brooklyn. How they got to that's politics, because not in my opinion. But anyway, that person laughed at it too, looked at it with a loop, with a dermatoscope, we call it, and laughed at it. And then she went to her friends and said, look, they tell me all the time it's nothing. But it doesn't hurt, but I don't have a good feeling. So I said, why don't you go see Dr. Levitt? So she comes to see me, and she tells me the same story, and it looks the same thing. But I said to her, you know what? We're taking a biopsy. I don't like it too. I don't know. There was a gut feeling to it. And I get and I removed that stuff, and it was 0.45 millimeters. So it wasn't like a superficial melanoma. It was already deep melanoma with regression. It was undergoing. And when I sent her to the general surgeon, he's like, Doc, how did you, why? Why did you take the biopsy? You need to listen to that inner voice of yours. We should learn again to to unite it. And I think with this book, and again, I'm not a salesperson, I'm the worst in sales, but with this book, you will learn how to get back to your roots and listen to that voice and find that energy and find that confidence to tune back to what nature gave you, the best power to question and to trust yourself.
Oh, what a beautiful gift you are to your patients just because you're willing to listen. You, as doctors and practitioners, empower your patients by practicing your own presence and listening and helping them trust themselves. What a gift that is. All of you do it. I think about that one a lot, and I love how you're speaking it today because our listeners are going to feel more empowered next time. You guys are going to think this is corny, but I'm watching a show on Netflix right now. Maybe I shouldn't mention it. I think I mentioned it in another interview. But they did a beautiful scene about this. And the scene was a resident teaching his student about listening being the most important thing a doctor does. And I just sighed a sigh of relief that that's getting out mainstream now. Like, hallelujah, that we're starting to have shows that are educating patients about how their doctors should be behaving. Thank goodness, right?
Can I say for that something? Can I
Yeah,
say a little?
sure.
So I'll give another quick anecdote. As a dermatology resident at Columbia, I was running around with there was no internet back then. You know, you can't go. You have to go to the library. So I was running like a turtle with a huge backpack of books. It just felt a little more safe going there. And I remember the first case. I'm going to the ER. Those geniuses in the heads of the ER, they don't know what's wrong with that skin. I am the first year. I have no clue. It's my first on call. I'm running to this patient, and there's a father and a child, and he's got blisters. It's pediatric. I mean, I did my residency in internal medicine. I saw adults. Now I'm seeing a pediatric, and I'm seeing skin. And then they ask me as if I'm the expert. It's the first time. It's my first month in dermatology. Anyway, so I go in, and what do I know how to do? Listen. So I asked the father, what'd you do? Well, I had scabies, and what'd you do? I put the cream, which they told me. Okay, and what'd you do then? Then I washed off. And what'd you do then? Then I put the cream. And what'd you do then? Then I washed. Then what you do? Then I put the cream. I was like, wait a second. How often did you put the cream? I put it every day. I was like, didn't they tell you to do it once a week? No, they didn't tell me. So he had irritation. You're talking about creams applying on your skin. He had overdone it, and he had blisters on the skin from doing that scabies treatment every single day, which is not the way they're supposed to do. So, just like you said, you got to learn to listen, and problem solved.
I love it. I love that story. Thank you. Okay, Caitlin, I know you've got your 2 cents to chime in on this one. How do you want to help our listeners understand when they're in the middle of that overwhelm?
Yeah. Having been there.
All of us, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite. So I first got Lyme disease very badly in my early 20s. And especially, then being a young woman, one listens to her doctors and just follows orders. And it took me decades to figure out that this system was just absolutely not working. And I started a pretty intensive tracking system because I figured, okay, no one else seems to know what's going on. My body must, and I need to start understanding its signals, right? Because the body speaks and feels, right? And so how am I going to start decoding the messages from my body? Because I'd been fairly well trained to ignore my body and just listen to the doctors, right? So once I made that shift, I realized I needed to fire all my doctors. I put together a new medical team of doctors who were willing to work with alternative therapies. who were willing to listen to me. And the way I saw it is that I was the bus driver and everyone else was in the back, and I was open to suggestions. But ultimately, it was my tracker and I that were making sense of what was going on. And there are a lot of amazing technological tools out there now, which help those of us who have to be retrained how to understand our own body's signals, right? So there's the continuous glucose monitor. So I put myself on one of those for 3 months, and now I know how to feel where I am, in terms of my metabolic range. There's the heart math tools, which teach us heart rate variability so that we can learn to feel when we are in a more coherent state, right? So we're really, really lucky in that we have a lot of great tech available to help us relearn what it is to be guided by our own body's wisdom, right? And I always tell my students, just because the latest study came out saying shna doesn't mean it applies to you. Just because I said to do something doesn't mean it's best for you. Like ultimately, your body is the one that's in charge here, and never ever forget that. And if you want to just get as uber geeky as you can with all the tech and all the tracking until you're kind of on your own, awesome. I can teach you how to do that. But ultimately, that's the journey to healing, is learning to truly hear, understand, and respect the signals we're getting from our body.
Yes, brilliant. Tracking. Oh, so I hope y'all heard that, because if you're in frustration or fear mode or it's chronic, you don't know what to do, it's been going, track, take some notes, pen on a notebook every day. You guys, it's pretty simple. You don't even need an app if you don't have one.
I have on my website, it's a freebie. It's my tracking system that I use. I mean, I kind of take it to the next level, but it's so important to me that people have even the basic tools so they can go on and download it, and there's a video explaining it. And it's a nice way to at least start with the system, and then I encourage people to just do their own riffs on that based on what serves them best. Yeah, it's so incredibly important. Looking how everything you do impacts your sleep, your mood, etc. And really seeing how you can move the needle on your pain points based on certain inputs. Yeah, it's so important.
Well, the tracking is cool and all, but if you caught what Caitlin was saying about how she relearned how to feel, I think that was the golden nugget that you're talking about. Is tracking will help you learn to feel it again at a more subtle level. So you're hearing the whispers instead of the screams. And all of a sudden, your body to the next level where something small will catch your attention versus when you get very ill or something has to scream in your body to let you know. This is so important, you guys. So, so important. Okay. We have to move on to the last question, however, and it's a big one, and you're going to want to give me 100 things, but you can't. So I'm going to challenge all of you to give me the one thing, right? Dr. Levitt, you're first on this one. What's the most important thing you want the listeners to know about staying healthy for life?
Buy the book, read it, and that's
good job. Yes.
Easy.
But from a skin perspective, what would be your one thing?
From a skin perspective is read the chapter. I was asked, and it was very, very difficult because skin is just like the eyes, but more so the window to not only your soul, but your all organs. You can look at the nails. I can tell you based on looking on your nails, the health of your liver, your kidneys. Palm reading is not a poo-poo. They're actually signs on your hands. They just call it differently than we doctors call it, but there are some signs you can follow. So the only thing I would tell people is protect your skin, use cooler water, shorter showers, don't use soap all over, just in areas where bacteria collect. And then on top of wet skin, moisturize. Most of the problems happen by breaking through your defense system and by you properly lubricating your skin with less ingredients. You don't have to buy the expensive cream, don't actually, but buy something simple. I like to apply on a massage oil on top of, or any oil. You go to the kings of Israel, they were anointed with oil. The olive trees is a sign of peace. Why peace? Peace is also wholeness. In Hebrew, peace is shalom. Why? Because it's shalem, from wholeness. And that's because your body will be whole when you apply this oil on your body. And after that, you need extra, put some moisturizer. You don't need to go for the steroids every time you have a problem. You need to learn to protect your first line of defense and keep it healthy for life, like the name of the book.
It's brilliant. I switched to oils versus lotions fairly recently, I would say in the last couple of years, and I just think they're so luxurious. It feels so much better, and it's so great to hear you validate that today. And these are things that we don't get taught until maybe later, or you just don't hear it from your doctors or whatever. So this is so cool, you guys. Thank you. Caitlin, same thing for you. What's that one most important thing you want people to know about staying healthy for life?
Well, my chapter was on alignment, so I'll stick with that one. It's really important that people understand that they need to find correct alignment, bones working in their in proper place so that muscles can work appropriately, breath can flow, therefore lymph can flow, therefore nervous system is soothed. The cascade is phenomenal. But it has to be a little bit 24/7, right? So a lot of people think they can just show up, do the work, and they're good. And then they pull this thing out and immediately start looking down and undoing all their excellent work, right? And I'm even seeing young children with hunchbacks because they're just pored over their screens all the time. Like, we need to be especially diligent now in this world of tech. We're literally have to resist against it, right? And so, yes, it's becoming aware of what proper alignment is, finding it, but then also setting up our lives in such a way, using tech in such a way, right here instead of down, so that we're not undoing all of our good work. But again, the benefits of proper alignment is just outrageous. You can literally get yourself to full physical and emotional health when you have good posture. And then the opposite is true. You can make yourself anxious, depressed, ill, non-functioning body if you fall out of it. So in my mind, alignment is kind of the core principle of everything.
Did y'all just sit up straighter? All right. I mean, I did. I tilted my pelvis a little bit. I have to be honest. Yeah. And the phone thing kills me. Like, okay, let's get it up in front of her. We're going to build some shoulder muscles doing that. That'll be a good thing. I love it, Caitlin. Thank you so much. Okay, Amanda, this is it. You're going to close us out with this question. What's that one thing you want people to know about staying healthy for life?
So that the one thing to really tie it all together is, let's go back to basics. Let's go back to the non-negotiables that don't cost anything, right? So getting outside, engaging in nature, the sunshine, the importance of the sunshine, moving our bodies the way that our bodies were designed to move in a primal way, doing it in a joyful state, right? So having fun with the four-legged critters, the two-legged children, enjoying and having fun and being present, right? There are so many things to enhance our health that are present to everybody, right at the tip of our fingers, that don't cost anything except for time. And that's the precious commodity that so many people think that they don't have the means to exchange their time. So they would rather, pay to go to somebody else to give their power away to get them better. When really, if we look at going back to the basics, we can build our resilience, we can build our capacity. We may not be able to come up with more than 24 hours in a day, but if we expand our capacity to tolerate things, we actually can get more done in less time in flow state. So, don't underestimate the power of what is available to each and every one of us, our human right, for free outside in nature, and the ability to move our bodies independently on our own, intuitively. It just requires us to get present, which is a lot to ask.
It's a lot, but it's the thing, right? It's a foundational thing. Thank you so much. What great tips and awareness. You all really brought some powerful, really could be life-changing things. The book is full of them, you guys. Amanda, Caitlin, Ayel, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, guys.
Guys,
Thank
it's amazing. I got better just by sitting with you guys and listening. Posture, everything. I mean, every word is like golden nuggets. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Thank you.
God bless. Love it.
So-
I want to make an appointment with each and every one of you guys. Just so you know.
So you guys, if you don't already know, this is way more than a book. This is a very generous community of experts who want you to reach out to them, ask the question, and get support. So if something today someone said gave you the goosebumps, resonated, you need more information or you want that support, go get it. Drop down into the show notes. I have everybody here hooked up with their website, and these people are doing amazing things in the world. So go explore the sites, reach out with your questions. And of course, please hop over to Amazon, grab this beautiful book, Healthy for Life. It's going to change a life. It's going to be the way that you teach your kids to be healthy as they grow up too. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.